Eddie Witz and the Most High combines the magical vibes of Jack Johnson with the sunshine of Jimmy Buffett and mix it into a genre-blended gumbo that takes us into a place from which we never want to escape. Now, Eddie's vocals dance between the bold and gentle, complemented by his collaborations with Grammy award-winning producer Native Wayne Jobson and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame songwriter and producer Jeff Berry. Now, additional notable musicians featured in his first album include the iconic drumming of Sly Dunbar of Sly and Robbie fame, as well as the highly acclaimed keyboardist Robbie Lyn, with additional drumming and percussion provided by Jack Johnson's percussionist Adam Topol. Now, Eddie Witz's first record, My Island, was released October 2023 and quickly garnered over 30,000 streams and regular radio play in the USA and Jamaica, and is currently spinning regularly on multiple Sirius channels. Now, new releases off his first album feature a collaboration with rock and roll global legend Bryan Adams and the Jamaican rapper pop artist Shanisa. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome one of the most refreshing new voices in music, Eddie Witz, to the show. Welcome there.
Blessings, greetings. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, this is great. I have fallen in love with a brand new song that you released, My Island. Man, what a refreshing sound that song has. And I know that we lost Jimmy Buffett this year. And in a way, when I listen to that song, I think you may be the one who's going to be carrying that torch for a while.
Well, who wouldn't want to carry the torch for Jimmy Buffett? But I appreciate you saying that. And I actually just, in honor of him, I actually just took my family to his resort, the Margaritaville Resort, over Thanksgiving weekend here in Palm Springs, California. And I wanted to catch the vibes. And I was hoping I might hear My Island on the radio there, because they play the Margaritaville channel, the Sirius XM channel, the Margaritaville radio channel. And what a great resort. I mean, they're constantly pumping the good vibes. So it's no wonder that he's built, I guess an over $1 billion empire around Margaritaville.
Yeah, we actually have a Margaritaville here, which I believe is only, I'm guessing maybe only 15, 20 miles from here. And it's the newest Margaritaville resort. And I hear it's a fabulous place. I haven't even had time to go and check it out. So now you've got me interested. So I'm going to have to grab the family and go out there and catch that tropical vibe.
Definitely. Well, my second record that I'm planning on releasing early next year is a song called Jamaica Time, or I'm on Jamaica Time. And it was my songwriting and producing partner, Native Wayne Jobson, who's a Jamaican-born artist and producer and songwriter. He worked with Jimmy Buffett. He wrote songs with Jimmy Buffett that were released. And he wrote this song for Jimmy Buffett, Jamaica Time, 25 years ago. And at the time, Jimmy loved it. He said, "We got to do it. I love it." And that was a time that his plane essentially was attacked by the Jamaican police. They mistakenly thought he was a drug smuggler. And on board the plane at the time was the lead singer of U2, Bono, with his wife and children, and the founder and CEO of Island Records, Chris Blackwell, who's one of the most famous Jamaican record producers. He obviously developed, signed Bob Marley and Cat Stevens and Grace Jones and people of that nature. And luckily, miraculously, nobody was hurt. The plane didn't explode. And, Jimmy Buffett's like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "Who are you?" Bono's like, "Are you crazy?" They're like, "Who are you?" And then they see Chris Blackwell and they're like, "Oh my God, we are so sorry, Mr. Blackwell," because he's much more well-known in Jamaica. So Jimmy Buffett wrote a song called Jamaica Mistake-a after that experience, right? And it's a great song. Everyone should look it up, Jamaica Mistake-a. So Jamaica Time got put on the shelf and he never got to it. And of course, he's passed on now. So the song was another gift that fell in my lap. And, in my mind, Jamaica, I want to make Jamaica Time sort of a similar brand. I think about bringing Jamaican culture to the world with the food products, vacation resorts, merchandise. Because what Jamaica time represents is a state of mind, a state of being. It's don't rush me, soon come tomorrow, I'm on Jamaica time. It's basically saying, let's disconnect from all the stresses, everything that's stressing us out, work and all that sort of stuff. And it's my time right now to ground myself, to heal myself. Jamaica time could be the time that we're focusing on our health and our well-being. So Jamaica time for me is really special, but it's very connected to my first song, My Island, because Let Me Take You to My Island is also an analogy. My island is really just, let me love you. Let me show you what I've learned. Let me share with you. You don't have to physically get on an airplane and fly to Jamaica or fly to Hawaii or another beautiful island, although that's what we did for the music video. And we took it, as literal as possible. But it's really about what we're all experiencing. There's all these crazy headlines, horrible wars, horrible things going on. It's hard to digest it as a parent with children. You want to protect your children. You don't want them to think that they're growing up in a violent, scary world. You want to protect their health and how they're growing. And we're constantly combating toxicity and all sorts of stuff. So My Island, the song is really about that. It's let's remember the sacredness of life and how important, this little bit of finite time is that we get to share together.
Well, that's the thing I got about the song, because as I was listening to it, you have this, it's like you have this invitation in this song where you're inviting the listener in. And the song is so refreshing. I mean, the very first time I heard it, and I'm being really honest here, the very first time I heard it, I thought, this is a monster hit.
Oh, thank you.
Because the production of it is well done, but your voice is fantastic. But it's just the whole vibe of the song that, it's like the moment people turn it on to listen to it, it's just like, okay, let me take the 3 minutes of my day and be stress free. That's what that song is like.
And I had a lot of help. And I didn't, approaching this was maybe the second and third song that I had ever worked on professionally in the recording studio, because I have, put my ability as an artist sort of on the shelf my whole life. As a young child, I played piano and I enjoyed singing and playing piano. I never played guitar as a youngster. And then I got into theater, and in college I was a theater major. So I was performing on stage in Shakespeare plays, music, Broadway musical style plays and other contemporary plays. So I knew that I loved to perform and, be on stage in front of an audience. But I never imagined I would ever get an opportunity or figure out how to become a recording artist, growing up, whether it's the Beatles or the Eagles or John Lennon or other artists like Bob Marley. I just couldn't imagine, that I had those abilities or skills. But it was Native Wayne Jobson who was over my house for dinner. I was not suffering, but I had gone through this horrific trauma in 2020 that eventually led to me conjuring a shingles attack of my face, and the trigeminal facial nerves basically shut down on me, and the right side of my face went, partially paralyzed. I couldn't shut my right eye, couldn't move my right side of my lips at all, like not one iota. The ability to snarl, frown, and I'm still, 3 years later working on regaining the full range of motion. And within that time period, I picked up the guitar and started taking guitar lessons. Something was drawing me to music. And my wife, who's an Australian-born singer-songwriter, she had also sort of put that on the shelf to raise our family, but she had always encouraged me and us to work together. Why don't we write a song, and why don't we do that? And I was always like, I don't really know how to do that, and I'm not sure, how to do it. But Wayne was over and he said, I got a great song, you should record it. And I'm working on a movie soundtrack. He's actually producing the sequel to Cool Runnings for Disney, the Jamaican bobsled film, which, you know, is still in development. But when he mentioned that to me, I said, well, what do you mean? How do we do that? He said, well, don't worry. I'll introduce you to an engineer slash, you know, producer that can walk you through the process, and I'll introduce you to some musicians that can play. So we ended up, that song was called Keys to the Kingdom. It hasn't been released yet, but that was my time to practice recording a song, and I went crazy. We brought in Santa, who was Peter Tosh's drummer, and he's Ziggy Marley's drummer, to lay down percussion. Then I brought in someone from the Nyabingi Ethiopian church to play the kete drum, which is a very sacred drum in African and Jamaican culture. And that was a beautiful experience, because when he came in, you know, he made a blessing before performing, right? He set this intention very, very spiritually high, which I thought was quite wonderful. And then I ended up bringing in a saxophone and horns arranger named Biscuit, who was Beyonce's saxophone player for many years. And so that whole experience, what happened was, doing all of this was the most fulfilling and joyful and exciting experience that I have, you know, ever been through. So I was like, this is going to help me heal myself. This is giving me so much joy and so much fulfillment. So after Wayne saw what I was doing there, he said, okay, I've got a Jimmy Buffett song named Jamaica Time that we might want to work on together. And I have a song that I'm working on with Jeff Berry that we've called My Island. And I'm like, who's Jeff Berry? He's like, well, Jeff Berry's the most, you know, decorated songwriter, you know, arguably the most decorated songwriter in the history of songwriting. And I looked him up and was blown away. This is the man that, you know, wrote Be My Little Baby and Going to the Chapel.
And Do Run Run, right?
You Run, Run, I Honestly Love You, Olivia Newton-John. And he had developed Neil Diamond before Neil Diamond became Neil Diamond. And what Wayne said is that, you know, Jeff wrote a hit song in 1970 called Montego Bay, because Jeff Berry visited Jamaica the way that I had visited Jamaica and taken my wife there on our honeymoon, and fell in love with the place. And he wrote this beautiful song that became a top 10 hit. And here we are many, many years later. He said, Wayne, I want to do a sequel to Montego Bay. Let's do a song that's going to help Jamaican tourism, help bring more people to Jamaica. And that's what was given to me at that time. But, you know, essentially what Wayne did is helped bring musicianship to the project. So Sly Dunbar is one of the most decorated producers and drummers in the world, not just a Jamaican drummer or record producer, just record producer. He's worked with the Rolling Stones, he's worked with Madonna. So we went to Kingston, Jamaica, and I actually had Sly Dunbar lay down his drumming on 4 tracks. And since his partner, Robbie Shakespeare, has passed away, he was the duo, Sly and Robbie duo, that played the bass, and Sly played the drums. We had Wayne's brother, Brian Jobson, who's also a songwriter and producer of My Island, play the bass. And we had Robbie Lyn, who I learned about is one of the most decorated keyboardists, Jamaican keyboardists, lay down all the keyboard tracking. And then, you know, the song just grows. And then I wanted steel drum, but I wanted steel drum that wasn't sort of commercially corny or cheesy, because a lot of like actual Caribbean and Jamaican people and artists, sometimes they look at the steel drum as, oh, that's like a touristy thing, you know, for non-Caribbean people to enjoy. But I wanted that steel drum to be sort of the spiritual heartbeat of the song and create this sort of magical vibration. And we brought in, it was Adam Topol, who Wayne introduced me to. Adam at a Jack Johnson concert in Los Angeles for a Cali Vibes Festival. It's coming up again in February. And Adam Topol, he's Jack Johnson's drummer for the last 20 years. And he's such a sweetheart. And he invites me to his studio in Venice. And he's got hundreds of percussion instruments from all over the world. Latin America, he went to Latin America. He studied Latin American percussion, African percussion, Jamaican percussion. And it was just like this amazing playground where we would spend an hour just like figuring out how we want to play the triangle. I never thought I would get so much joy, from a block or a coconut and how we're going to track those instruments. So he came up with all these beautiful percussion arrangements. And the big part to creating this music is one of my co-producing partners, Andrew Furs. I call him Fursy. He's from Melbourne, Australia, but he lives here in Los Angeles. And he's really the guy behind the computer. He plays acoustic tracks and electric guitar and bass, but he's just a brilliant co-producing partner. And, when you're a new artist, what I've learned is you got to come up with sort of your vocal branding, the sound that sort of people can instantaneously say, oh, that's Bob Marley, that's Jack Johnson, or that's Eddie Witz. And you can hear it, when you're just in a supermarket and it might be
Well, yeah, it's called finding your voice. And a British gentleman, Stuart Pearce, is very well known in helping actors and even politicians to find what he calls to find their note. He was the one that trained Margaret Thatcher to become the strong woman that she became as a prime minister of England. And he also secretly trained Princess Diana after that horrible interview with Martin Bashir. She needed to find her voice, and he trained her and found her voice to become the global phenomenon. So no, I completely understand what you're talking about when it comes to finding that voice or that note that when people hear it, they know who it is.
And Andrew was good because as my theater background, I was naturally sort of pushing too hard and over singing things. And when you get into a recording studio with a sound room with a vocal microphone, he had this microphone called the Chandler Red. It lights up a red, and you could feel the electricity when you get close to it, like tickling your lips. And when you put the headphones on, you could just whisper and you're like, whoa, right? So now you've got this amazing instrument where you don't have to scream. You can sing quietly and softly, and it sounds so beautiful. And I have to credit him and credit this equipment too for a lot of these things. But in finding my voice, it was really this health journey, right? Me having to try to heal myself, try to calm myself down, calm my nervous system down. What we spoke about earlier about living in a mode of constant forgiveness and being grateful and being thankful and accepting things, for better or for worse. I wouldn't have been able to record, produce, or make any of this music without that growth, without that experience that I've been through in the last 3 years, to better myself, to transform myself. And, a lot of people.
Is that where your soft tone came from in the song My Island? Was from learning by recording on that particular microphone?
Well, I had the experience of that first song, Keys to the Kingdom, working on that microphone. And I worked hard to, redo and redo and redo the vocals to get to a point to train myself to know that you don't have to push. And learning, different vocal techniques. And I'm still learning all of that. With My Island, it was really weird. Like the first time I did a scratch vocal, because most modern songs today have very few lyrics. Verses are very short. Choruses could be a few words. But here I have a literally Shakespearean soliloquy of lyrics. How do you pull that off, right? And not bore people? So I approached the song more as a folk, like a Jamaican folk pop song, which no one expected. They expected it's just going to be like reggae kind of song. And I'm like, let's go more broad. Let's kind of make it this more Americana, folky pop with authentic Jamaican and African and Latin percussion influences. And then after completing that version, there's a beautiful gentleman by the name of Neil Case, who professionally goes by bass mechanic. He's Jamaican as well. He's English, but I think he moved to Jamaica when he was a child. And he grew up with Wayne and Brian. And he's an expert in creating remixes, whether it's a reggaeton, a reggae remix. So he took my island like a surgeon and created the remix that's on Spotify right now, which is a groove centric. That's the version that Jamaican radio, IRE FM, is spinning on heavy rotation.
I love the remix version. And I actually listened to both of them because I was curious as to what the differences were. So I went back and listened to the original cut. And I'm like, okay. Then I played the remix again and I'm like, oh, there's the difference. I love the remix version. It's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's so bright. It's so fresh and airy to me. And I just want to listen to it over and over again because the song is so great.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the remix is definitely gets your hips moving. It's got this bass line. Like if you have a bumping system in your car or a subwoofer system, you will feel that version. You will hear that version. But the original version, that folky version, to me, it's just it's going for a more timeless approach. There's certain songs maybe like Paul Simon, like Mother and Child Reunion, and some of the songs that he did are like folky kind of Jamaican reggae songs, and even Jimmy Cliff, who's most famous Jamaican reggae artist, but he's got some really beautiful folk songs that have just crossed over, because reggae music and Jamaican music has that potential to really cross over. And there's been artists like UB40 that did a cover of, let's say, a Neil Diamond song, Red
Wine,
and turn that into not just a big reggae song, but just a global pop song that people cherish. I was actually listening because I was thinking about what song would be good for me to cover, right? But do it more in that Jamaican reggae vibe. And I was looking at this song. Oh God, sorry.
Actually, when you were talking, I was thinking, and this is funny that you bring this up because I was thinking, what song could Eddie cover? And then you mentioned the Eagles, and I went, wait a minute. Tequila Sunrise and Peaceful Easy Feeling. I'm thinking he could pull that off. But at the same time, because of your voice, you could sing anything that Timothy B. Schmidt sings. Because I was talking to Paul Carrick from Mike and the Mechanics and Squeeze, and he and Timothy wrote songs together. And so when you said that, I thought, yeah, there's two great Eagles songs that you could literally just cover. And what's funny is I'm not only a huge Eagles fan, I'm an even bigger Neil Diamond fan because the songwriting is so deep compared, like you said, compared to what we hear today. People are lazy on the songwriting side. Yeah. And because they're just trying to get a bunch of radio airplay. But I like, the lyrics that Simon and Garfunkel did, Neil Diamond. And I mean,
Hello Again. And that's why I'm talking to people.
And I like the 60s and the early 70s Neil Diamond, Solitary Man and, I Am I Said. I mean, the list goes on. And you have the voice that, in my mind, and even in my ears, you can bring new life to some of these songs. And most people who have never heard them, they're going to think you're the one that wrote them.
Yeah. Well, I tell everyone they have to watch The Jazz Singer. which was, Neil Diamond, Laurence Olivier, the greatest actor who's ever lived, and what a great film that is. And it's actually, I guess it's a remake of the first film that's ever been made, if I'm not incorrect on that. And the Guild guitar, which I'm doing some content right now around my Guild guitar. So Neil Diamond played a Guild guitar, and he plays it in the Jazz Singer, and Bob Marley played on a Guild guitar. And it was random that I was searching for a good guitar when I was ready to step up to something a little nicer to use for recordings. And I thought a Martin or a Taylor was what I needed. And I was running all around trying every Taylor and Martin I could find. And I kept seeing these Guild guitars from like the 1970s. They were just way too expensive. But I went to this place on Pico called McCabe's, which is a famous guitar store, a music store in Los Angeles on Pico Boulevard. And all of a sudden I see this Guild that's like a year old. And when I held it and played it, it was just so bright and beautiful and resonant. And that's one of the major guitars in all my recordings that I've been using. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles. So I got to send you more of my songs, because what I'm really doing, my music is really a blend of Americana, folk, pop with, reggae elements. And sometimes the reggae is more really just on the percussion side, and the work that I'm doing with Adam Topol, meaning you'll have this sort of pop Americana folk song, but then you'll hear bongos and congos and shakers and tambourines and triangles sort of in the background. It's kind of like what Christopher Cross did to a lot of his music, and someone like Stephen Bishop did back in the day. Where
you talk about all the guys that I absolutely love, and I still listen to them, because those are the people you got to go back to, and you got to listen how they did things. And you bring up an excellent point. When UB40 did Red Wine, because when I first heard it, I went, Neil Diamond, because I already knew the song, because I have all the albums. And I literally can just reach over here and grab a collection of any Neil record I want. And this is a first pressing.
Whoa, I've never seen that picture of him.
Yeah, this is Hot August Nights, one of the most famous double albums ever recorded.
Wow, I have never seen that album and that cover.
Well, and here's the thing, because how great your voice is, this is the Neil Diamond album you got to get is Stones.
Oof.
How many albums do you know that actually has a string tie on the back?
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay, dude, now,
priceless.
Because you're one of my favorite people now. Now, this is one of the best Neil Diamond records. This is first pressing. This is Longfellow's Serenade. Now, you want songs that move your heart. You want an album that has less than 10 songs on it, and everyone will move you. This is the only album you got to own.
Whoa, you are pulling out you just moved your arm to the right and grabbed. How did you do that?
Dude, I got a full-blown turntable off to the side. This may be my TV studio, but I've got all my Neil Diamonds, all my Beatles, all my Bee Gees, because see, I love songwriters.
Bee Gees. The Australian. I want to do a cover. I said let's do a cover on the Bee Gees because I'm so in love with the Bee Gees.
Well, I heard a rumor. Now, have you listened to Barry Gibb's Greenfields album?
Not the
where
whole album.
Where he took some of the famous Bee Gees songs and he recorded them as duets with people like Dolly Parton, Little Big Town, and the lead singer from Jay Buchanan from Rival Sons. When they did To Love Somebody, which is the best song on that whole album. I heard the rumor is that he could be working on a second one. That's where you need to be.
Well, I would love that. I mean, I have a lot of connections to Australia because my wife's Australian and we spend a lot of time down under. So I'm starting to do some radio promotions in Australia because I want the ability to tour in Australia and to perform in Australia. We're thinking about moving to Byron Bay, New South Wales, Australia, and letting our kids experience, what it is to grow up in Australia as something different than growing up in Los Angeles. which might not be such a bad thing with what's going on out here with, crime increasing and stuff like that. But, songwriting. So luckily, my wife is a brilliant songwriter and lyricist. So together, I'm learning how to be a much better songwriter a lot faster because I have a wicked partner by my side, and now, I'm really focusing on producing and recording songs that, we've written or that we've written with other people. My Island was written by Native Wayne, Jeff Berry, and Brian Jobson. But the amount of, I'm bringing so much to the table with arrangements, with musicians, with, investing really heavily into the production side of the songs. And that's really just the beginning. Right now, one of my biggest challenges is how do we, grow this audience? How do we get more people to listen to the song, to relate to it? So whether that's social media, content, digital marketing, radio promotions, doing gigs. I have a gig coming up at the Viper Room on Sunset in Los Angeles, one of the most famous venues in Los Angeles, in the place that I grew up. Because I was lucky enough. So I was born in Hollywood, grew up in Los Angeles my whole life. So I really sort of grew up under the shadow of Hollywood and surrounded by a lot of interesting people, a lot of actors, musicians. And I was really lucky to grow up in that environment and get inspiration from so many beautiful artists and entrepreneurs.
You have so many all-star people around you. And it was funny because when I was listening to My Island, the remix version, I was sitting there really, really listening. I'm like, wait a minute. And now that I see you, I'm thinking, okay, first off, you can be an actor. You've done theater. But then when I was listening to My Island, I'm like, this song should be on a movie soundtrack. And when you had mentioned earlier about the other songs and about them doing to work on Cool Runnings too, I'm like, this is the song.
We hope so. We hope so. I mean, I actually was producing all these songs knowing that it needs to get to the Disney quality level. Like when Disney films like Frozen and Mulan, like some of those musicals that they do, they write songs very specific to the stories and whatnot. And sometimes it's just pop songs that end up in the movies. But I wanted to approach it like, how do we custom make music for a potential sequel to Cool Runnings? I
know someone you may want to talk to, and I think he's in LA, is to look up Bruce Bellin. Bruce Bellin wrote numerous songs for Disney. I mean, like they would have the songwriting department. So if a director or producer was working on a film, they would run into the room and go, okay, guys, we need 3 songs for this film, and we need them by tomorrow morning. And they would write the songs, and they would end up in the film. All right.
Who I want to become. I want to become like, guys like Mel Brooks and these directors where it's like, I can, I'm like trying to Willy Wonka stuff, like I'd love someone to say, work on this movie project and help create all this music for it. There's so many. So this weekend is SyncCon. It's the Sync convention in Los Angeles. So I'm going. I bought tickets. Wayne and I are going because I need to learn. I'm going to meet a bunch of people that are in charge of gaming companies, film studios, TV studios that hire music supervisors and look for music to put into projects. And what I'm hearing is that's really the only way to do it is relationships, right? But a ukulele ballad like My Island is actually what I've been told in the industry is really valuable for syncing because lots of films and TV shows are looking for like a ukulele ballad, but there's not a lot of options. There is the famous one, the Hawaiian artist from Hawaii, Israel, who did Over the Rainbow, but he covered it more of a ukulele style. That's in so many films, right? I mean, you hear that all the time. So I'm hoping that my island could be like that and could end up in some films. That would be
And that's a perfect song to be playing on ukulele.
But I'll tell you, the greatest gift is to perform these songs. When I perform, Let Me Take You to My, it just brings me so much joy. I'm like, how am I the lucky guy that gets to like sing this song right now?
Well,
You know?
I heard that you actually placed healing chakras into the song. Is that true? And if so, why did you do that?
Well, so part of my healing journey to try to heal my facial paralysis, this Ramsay Hunt syndrome condition that we talked about, and the synkinesis, which is sort of the abnormalities that seem to be left, with the fascia that sort of gets hardened in the paralysis. I ended up doing a weekend event with a beautiful group of people from Africa, an African tribe. And I was sitting down learning about, we're really talking about our infinite existence, not the finite existence in this physical body, but our soul's infinite existence. And how do we focus on that more, right? And within that, there was a sound bath and a sound healing artist. And I was learning that certain bowls had a direct frequency correlation to the 7 chakras in the body, starting, I guess, with the overarching sort of aura chakra, the crown chakra, going into the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, the belly and sacrum. And there was a young man there named Zion who I just connected with. And he told me that he's studying to be a music mixer and that he has come up with a new technology process of incorporating the chakra frequencies, the solfeggio frequencies into the mixing of the song. So I was like, oh my God, I want to try this with my island, even though I had already mixed and mastered the My Island original version and the reggae remix version. I set up an appointment back with Andy Baldwin, another Australian artist. He's a world-renowned mixer and an artist and a producer. And we went to his studio up Mount Washington, and we explored and experimented with a new mix, and we were successful at the end of the day. So we ended up, the kick drum in My Island, the kick drum, that's the heartbeat of the song. So we created a bus, as they call it in mixing, and we put the heart chakra in that bus. So now every time the kick drum is played, the heart chakra frequency is integrated in that. With the snare drum, I think we did the third eye chakra. And every chakra frequency, it's like a physical frequency that we're putting into the computer, into the mixing process. And as that instrument is channeling through, it gets affected by that. And we went all 7 chakras. We picked different instruments and different places to put it. And when we analyzed it, it makes the song a little warmer. It's subtle differences, but it's a little bit warmer. And, if you just listen to it and close your eyes, you'd like to believe that it's more harmonizing to the physical body, right? Because the human being, we contain all these chakras. So when we're hearing the song, the ability to feel like, I want people to listen to the song and feel like, wow, I feel like I took my shoes off and I walked in the sand for 10 minutes, or I jumped in the ocean, and that feeling, that electric magnetic field in the earth, it sort of helps ground us and put us in a mode of, it's parasympathetic, right? That's the mode that we want to be, or is it sympathetic?
No, I think it's parasympathetic.
That parasympathetic mode. So I'm now trying to explore this with all my other songs. I have some of my producing partners that are concerned that when you do this, it could mess up I think what they call the phasing. And they're a little concerned it could, cause other problems with the mix. But what I really want to do is build maybe a plugin for this, because healing music is growing as a category, and there's all different ways that people do it. But up until this point, it's more like instrumental music. There's artists that I work with. There's actually, I was blessed. There's a an ethereal soundscapes artist, Australian artist by the name of Benny Holloway. And Benny was in LA working with Furzy in the studio. He lives up near Byron Bay, and he performs in like yoga festivals where hundreds of people are meditating. And he sings like a didgeridoo. He sings like an instrument. I mean, and he actually performed some of the backing vocals and set the bar for the backing vocals in My Island. I can't take credit for that. The backing vocals that it's just ah, 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 ah. I was gonna do the backing vocals, but I wasn't sure how I was gonna do the backing vocals. He happened to be there, so we said, okay, why don't you try it? And he started doing that. And I'm like, oh my God, now I need to do that too. And we harmonized both of our voices in the backing vocals. But if you could look him up, he's got millions of streams. Benny Holloway, his music is really healing music. And the music that you listen to when you're in Shavasana, right, at the end of your yoga practice, and you're really trying to center yourself. What I'm trying to do as an artist is, how do I bring all this to mass markets, to the pop world? Right?
See, I love that idea. I love that concept because a lot of the songs today, they're just there. They don't evoke emotion. They don't evoke feeling. They don't even evoke a beat to that just once you kind of get you into the groove. When I listen to My Island, it's like, and as you're explaining all of these different parts, I'm like, oh my gosh, because music is strictly made to move us. It can move us physically, it moves us mentally, it moves us emotionally. I mean, I love listening to music as I'm writing up scripts because sometimes you get that right song, you get that right melody, and all of a sudden your brain goes, oh, I got the perfect idea, or I got the perfect question that I want to ask this person in this interview. And so music, see, the thing about music is this, and I've said this so many times on my program. Parents need to encourage their children to pick up a musical instrument because it makes them smarter. It creates new brain nerve pathways. When I was fortunate enough to go to Glenn Campbell's 80th birthday celebration. He wasn't there because he, at that time, was suffering with Alzheimer's. And so his wife, Kim, told me that the very last thing that Glenn ever lost was the ability to play the guitar. The very last thing. So it shows you how powerful music is, but even more powerful when someone actually learns to play. I mean, my son and daughter have enough guitars to open up a freaking store. I mean, she just bought a brand new jazz box. So,
wow.
and she loves playing ukulele. I mean, I think the only stringed instrument she doesn't own is a banjo. So, but it's the fact that when people learn to play a musical instrument, if it's a guitar, if it's, I don't care if it's the drums or the piano, you're creating a nerve pathway that is so strong that the brain will hold on to that till the very end.
Wow. This is why this piano right here, my son, he's 13, Kai, and my daughter, Lennon, named after John Lennon. She's going to be 11. And we have been adamant that they continue with it's called Simply Music. Because, in the pandemic, you couldn't physically meet with people. So everything's Zoom. And we just actually recorded. I had them both had to track their piano for the holiday, Christmas performances that they do. And that's been an amazing experience. And of course, dragging them to Jamaica to shoot the music videos for My Island in Jamaica time, they've had to hear Daddy sing and play that song a million times. And I'm sure they're pretty sick of it at this point. But it's funny because Spotify just released yesterday, like hey, you listened to this song the most this year. And it's like, out of everything, of course, I've listened to My Island more than anything. And my son was like, Dad, how did you listen to more My Island? Because he's listening to Eminem right now. He's like, you listen to My Island more than I listen to Eminem.
I actually looked up my list this morning because I was curious, and I looked at it and went, people are going to think I just listen to yacht rock.
Listen, yacht rock is my inspiration, right? When we talk about Hall & Oates and Christopher Cross and all these songs, like I'm really trying to, like a lot of what I do is like if the Eagles or James Taylor or like Hall & Oates or were new artists coming out today, what would that sound like? That's kind of what I'm going for with the blend that I'm doing, and with my vocal branding and the music branding.
See, I love what you're doing. I love talking to you because it's so refreshing to talk with a recording artist that actually gets it. Because I've talked to some, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I've talked to a few legends in the recording industry, and I'm talking artists. And one of the biggest things that irked them the most of all genres of music was having some of their iconic songs, the beats, stolen by the rap industry. And because they were saying, we get it, but you're not paying us. These songs were written 40, 50 years ago. I mean, some of them were written in the 70s, and the rap artist steals the beats, does not give them credit, but never writes the check. And one of the artists that I talked to was a black artist, and he was ticked off about it. And I was like, wow. But more importantly is, it is those songs that is the true art of songwriting, not just slapping a bunch of short verses together to create something that kind of sounds good, to force it on the radio and force it on people to listen to. That's not a real song.
I'll tell you, I was lucky to go to an event in Santa Monica last week at a company called Apogee. Apogee, they're a famous music mixing company. And the owner's husband is one of the most famous mixers in the industry. His name is Bob Clearmountain. And Bob, we were sitting in a room with the Atmos, the immersive Atmos sound system. And what he's doing is he was remixing the Roxy Music Brian Ferry album. So we were listening to Avalon in Atmos. We were listening to Bob Marley in Atmos. We were listening to Bryan Adams in Atmos. So he's been working with Bryan Adams for a very long time. And of course I'm thinking, oh my God, My Island in Atmos, I think is perfect, right? Because you'll think like, oh, the steel drummer is like right behind me playing over there. And the guy on the conga is like right over there. And above me is, angels singing or whatever the case may be. Which leads me to the Bryan Adams story. So after Coachella, there was Stagecoach in Palm Springs, and I'd never been to Stagecoach before, and I was blown away with Stagecoach. And Bryan Adams was performing there, and Wayne is friends with him, has worked with him over the years, known him for decades. So I was backstage with Bryan Adams and trying to like not fan out on him, but of course I was. And Wayne's like, Eddie, you need to chill out, just act cool, man, act cool, you're an artist now, be cool. I'm like, oh, sorry. And Bryan Adams is such a rock star. This guy's got 20 hit songs, and he literally doesn't even need to sing because the entire audience is singing every lyric of his song. It blew my mind. So Wayne had a brilliant idea with Bryan's blessing. There's a song off his first studio album called Coming Home. I'm coming home, Lord, I'm coming home. And a lot of vets actually play this song and, about coming home to see their family. And Wayne has always loved this song, but Bryan, he never like redid it. He never performs it live. Like not a lot of people have heard this song. So Wayne said, Eddie, no one even knows, many people don't know this song. Let's cover it. and maybe Brian will play guitar or something. Maybe we'll get lucky. Of course, we didn't get him to play guitar, but I got his percussion, his drummer, Pat Stewart, which was his original drummer in the 1980s and is now his drummer now touring with him. We had Pat lay down the percussion. We had Brian Adams engineer it in his recording studio in Canada. And I got to see him at backstage at the Forum in Los Angeles a month or two ago. And he said, "How's it going?" I said, "It's great. It's like my favorite song. I just performed it live at the Mint." He was like, "How'd that go?" I said, "It went great." And, luckily, he didn't say, "I'm really mad that you're doing it." But, learning from Brian Adams and the stuff that he did, I guess Brian's doing what Taylor Swift is doing. He's re-recording all of his songs because he wants to own the masters. Taylor Swift did that, right? So he's literally re-recording all of his top hits at the moment. And I guess Bob Clearmountain is, mixing everything for him and putting it in an immersive Atmos setting and experience. So
have you heard Brian Adams' covers album?
No.
Oh my gosh. My wife pulled it up and she goes, "Have you heard this?" I said, "I didn't even know it existed." Do you remember the song by the Manhattans, "Kiss and Say Goodbye"?
No.
He does that song. Now, you gotta pull up the original on Spotify. The Manhattans, "Kiss and Say Goodbye," because it starts out as he's talking, but then to hear Brian Adams sing, I'm like, I've never heard anybody on this planet ever cover that song. And he actually covered one of Neil Diamond's songs on that album, which I believe is from one of the more modern albums. I think it was from later 80s. I know I have it over there somewhere, but
Brian's voice.
He's talented.
Brian Adams has a voice like Andy Gibb, like gold, touched by the golden wings of the angels. And the other person that obviously has an incredible voice is none other than Michael Bolton. And Michael Bolton, so when I was in Jamaica, Wayne was producing a charity concert for the Children's Hospital. And Michael Bolton was the headliner that night. And I got a chance to see him perform and meet him backstage. He's suffering from a condition right now. I'm not sure what you call it. But
I was wondering, because I saw him on television recently. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. He can still sing. But
mobility is restricted.
Yeah. But he's still got the voice.
When you talk about some of the greatest voices, he's definitely up there. And I didn't realize that a lot of what he does is cover songs. So, and I had a stigma when I was first coming out to do my first performances and gigs in LA. I said, well, I'm not going to do any covers because, I need to just do songs that I've recorded, that I've written. But then people said, "No, Eddie, you want to do at least one cover because what you do kind of tells people what kind of artist you are or what kind of artist you're trying to be. It gives them something else to relate to that they're more familiar with because nobody knows your songs. They're hearing it for the first time." So what we did the last show is a Tracy Chapman song called "Baby, Can I Hold You Tonight?" And I actually did it as a duet with my wife, "Forgive me is all that you can say. Years gone by and still." It's when I heard, I was looking up covers. What cover could I do? It's hard, And I guess there was a female Jamaican artist that covered that song. And then I'm like, wait, I don't remember even the original Tracy Chapman version. When I listened to her version, I was like in tears. I was like, oh my God, this song is speak to me, the lyrics, everything that's going on. And that's a beautiful song. So I'd love to continue doing Tracy Chapman. And I guess she just won an incredible award. I think the first female Black songwriting award, producing
award. And country music, because it was it Luke Combs that that
Yes.
did Fast Car.
Right.
But you know, when I hear you sing, I'm like, you know, you could pull a UB40 and you could take Christopher Cross's Sailing and give it a little bit of that Jamaican vibe and make it even more of an upbeat
Yeah.
song because
Well,
your voice works perfectly with something like that. You even may want to may go back in time and pull out Neil Diamond's Jonathan Livingston's Seagull album and
okay.
go back and look at some of those. Um,
I'll tell you, and Don
there's a
Henley,
lot of
right?
stuff for you because man, you're the total package, man.
And we talk about the Eagles. Don Henley, that's another, like, his voice and his performances, everything that he's done. We have a beautiful song that we're doing right now called Same Moon Tonight. It's more of an Eagles vibe. Looking at the same moon tonight, same moon tonight, same moon. And a lot of the ad-libbing that we're doing in the end, I think the sun might be coming in weird here, but
No, you're good. It's fine.
reminds me of Eagles. But yeah, listen, all I do is, I think the Bee Gees were saying that in the documentary. With music, it's kind of like we can't really take credit for stuff. Music is like out there in the universe, and it's just, if you can grab onto something while it's drifting past you and connect to it and bring your own talents to it, of course, but it's really a gift. Like, it's not like I own, like, My Island, and these songs are like, I'm just the lucky guy at the moment that's working on it, but anyone can, cover your songs at any time or do their own interpretation of it. So it's things we're sharing, all of this experience we're sharing, we're here to share, we're here to grow and learn with each other. And but that's what's so amazing about getting to the point as an artist where you can perform in front of audiences or larger audience in festivals would be a dream come true, and what I'm trying to manifest, so that the emotive messages and feelings in the songs can connect with people in the moment, people that are going through rough times, good times, bad times, just a moment, creating an experience where people are with their family and they had a good experience and something that's memorable. Because some people think it's not important, but the time is so short here that those memories are priceless. And I had the opportunity to take my son Kai for his 13th birthday to his first concert ever. And one of the bands that he loves is Coldplay. So I said, we're going to the Rose Bowl. We may get a backstage VIP pass. We might meet, Chris Martin. And I went to the Rose Bowl. We sat up at the top. It didn't really matter. And it was the most incredible experience for him and for me. And we were lucky. After I slipped into the VIP section, and it was literally 5 minutes before midnight. My son was about to become a man, right? Teenager, 12 to 13 is a big one. And all of a sudden I see Chris Martin walk out to talk to people, and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. We can't. So I literally push my son, I push my friend, we come around the back of Chris Martin, and I say, Chris, this is my son Kai. It's his first concert ever. You're his favorite artist. Coldplay is his favorite band. His birthday is in 5 minutes. He's about to turn 13. And he had this love pin because he works with this organization called Love. And he smiles. He takes the pin off his chest, over his heart, gives it to my son Kai and says, happy birthday, Kai. Thanks for coming, And I was just like, oh my God. Chris Martin just literally gave my son a blessing and gave him, a button that says love. And my son was like, Dad, what just happened? Was that really the lead singer of Coldplay? I'm like, yes, it was. And congratulations, you're 13, And
Wow.
just, to create a memory, like he's never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget that. And I don't know, I think I made up for a lot of, because I haven't taken my kids to, backstage to a lot of these things. So I think I made up for a lot of lost time there.
Oh, I think so. And oh my goodness. Man, I have enjoyed this conversation with you probably more than probably most of the interviews that I've done this year.
Oh,
And you and I love the same artist, the music, we get it. You get it, which is what excites me more than anything, because we need more artists like you that actually understand the artistry of music, the artistry of songwriting, uh, the production, and not just slapping a bunch of stuff together to make the bean counters happy at the front office, but to create something that will be timeless. I mean, because think of all the people that you and I have mentioned, all the artists that we've mentioned today, they're timeless. I mean, to think back that some of these albums are 40, 50, 60 years old. I mean, when I pulled out Neil Diamond's Hot August Night, that was 1975. And think how long that's been,
That's the
but
year I was born.
people still remember it. And I think you're the type, and you're one of the artists today that is going to be bringing us so much music that we're going to remember it 30, 40, 50 years from now. You're that kind of guy.
Thank you. Well, I'm a 1975 baby, so I've got some benefits being born that year. And I'll tell you, I'm going to share. So for 7 months, I've been in post-production on the music videos for My Island, because I knew the potential of what we shot there. It basically looks like a National Geographic documentary in Jamaica, with me standing on a waterfall, like singing the song, and other amazing locations. But we're going to release it officially, I think, in the next few weeks. And hopefully when we meet again, or when this goes live, we can include that link, because I worked really hard to express all of these thoughts and emotions in the visuals of the song. And I'm really proud of it now. I've hired 3 editors, 3 different color grade people, because everyone brought something to the table, but I just wasn't satisfied. I knew it could be better. I knew it could look better, feel better. So yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a perfectionist in that.
Well, I'm glad you are. And I'll tell you this, Eddie, you have an open invitation to come back onto this show, because when you get that brand new album out, you've got to come back here so we can walk through each and every song, because I know for a fact that every song is going to have a story. And ladies and gentlemen, you got to head over to eddiewitz.com. It's on the screen. You need to check out his music, check out the brand new single, My Island, check out his merch, get on his email list, and find out his tour schedule, because if he even comes anywhere near you, you better be buying a ticket and check this guy out. I have interviewed so many recording artists over the last few years, but this guy here is a total package, and you better keep an eye out. You better keep an ear out for this guy, because Eddie, I'm going to say this now. We're not only going to hear some of the greatest music in history coming from you, I'm probably going to expect to see you in a future film sometime. And who knows, many of your songs end up on some massive movie soundtrack here in the future.
Well, I would love that. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm super grateful, very appreciative. And just you're making my day a very bright day. Going into rehearsals today to prepare for the Viper Room gig. And this is my first time. I'm going to just break it down more acoustic, just a 3-piece band, which is more intimate.
Well, sometimes that's all it takes. And ladies and gentlemen, once you hear his song, My Island, you're going to become an instant fan, just like I have. And it's the soothing sound of Eddie's voice will make you feel that you are literally sitting on a white sandy beach, sipping on a Mai Tai, as your troubles melt away. And so get on to Spotify, get on Sirius XM, tune in to either Kenny Chesney's channel or Jimmy Buffett and get ready, or just go straight to Spotify, look up Eddie Witz and the Most High, and check out My Island. Again, you're going to be a huge fan in an instant, and you're going to be begging for his brand new album, which hopefully we're going to be debuting here when you get it ready to go, Eddie. And again, I want to thank you for sharing your time, your talent, and your music with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching and listening. And as for me, I'll see you next time.